Welcome to the next chapter of As the Story Grows. I'm Brent Patton. It's Five-Timer Friday. Today we welcome back, for the fifth time, Jason Wisdom from Becoming the Archetype and Death Therapy. Becoming the Archetype recently released Children of the Great Extinction on Solid State Records. It's their first new record in 10 years, and the first record with Jason on vocals since 2011's Celestial Completion. Jason and I chat about Georgia sports, Death Therapy moving away from the heavy music space, the return of Becoming the Archetype, and the inspiration for the concept of Children of the Great Extinction. Of Jason's 5 times being on the podcast, this was my second time getting to chat with Jason, and I enjoyed this conversation even more than the last time Jason and I spoke. If you haven't checked out Children of the Great Extinction yet, it's a killer record, and I highly recommend giving it a spin. Enjoy today's chat with Jason Wisdom from Becoming the Archetype. Five Timers Club. We need like a jacket like SNL or something.
Yeah, it's a Tom Hanks.
That's awesome. It's like, do I have anything to ask you? But you put it on your record, which is why you're here. So
Totally.
Well, first thing I want to ask you, I know you're pretty down on Georgia sports, but after last year, are you feeling better about the state of Georgia sports, especially Atlanta baseball? I mean, Spencer effing Strider, man.
Yeah, he's kind of a freak of nature right now. So yeah, no, I mean, I don't get to watch it hardly ever. I mean, honestly, like even when the Braves won the World Series, I think I watched maybe half an inning at the end of the game, just to say that I did, because I was, yeah. And then with the Georgia won the national championship, and I mean, I might have watched 5 minutes of the game. I wish I had time. I love watching that kind of stuff, but I just don't have time, or we don't have TV, we don't have internet kind of thing. So
yeah. I didn't have the ability. I had Twitter open, so I could get the Twitter cast, and then like the MLB game cast where it just shows you pitch by pitch.
Yeah.
And that's how I watched all the World Series games.
Well, there you go.
Much rejoicing.
Yes, for sure.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Before we get to the return of Becoming the Archetype, since we last chatted, you put out a full length with Death Therapy. How was that received? Because you really stepped out on a limb there and went a more poppy electronic route than kind of the industrial sound you had built upon.
Yeah, it was I think that's kind of where Death Therapy was naturally heading.
Yeah.
I think I was just afraid to go there until that record. So what I mean is, sort of my comfort zone was always to just do the screaming thing and try to make it more metal core or whatever. And the reality is I sort of failed at that. And it was time to be like, okay, well, this isn't going to happen. Like the metal community isn't really interested in Death Therapy. Most of the BTA fans that checked out the first Death Therapy record because they were curious. They were like, oh, he's back. And what's he? Okay. They checked it out. By the time we got to the second record, they just were like, nah, this isn't metal enough. It's not what I want. So even though with the second record, I feel like there's some songs on that record that are like very BTA sounding. I was totally trying to throw even more metalcore in the second record. That record, just like the band's people listening to the band was like high, and then it just went in the toilet. Yeah. And then with the new record, surprisingly, I think it was the right call. I think the people who were there for the alternative industrial thing got what they were wanting, which was, so, and for me, it works. I've never written any music in my life that's been focused on, well, how is this going to make me popular? It's just, what do I want to do? And yeah, with Melancholy Machines, the newest Death Therapy record, it's it feels more natural, honestly. So I can tie that in with the new BTA record. I will say this: I really enjoyed writing the new BTA record. It was a lot of fun, but it felt more like putting on a show. For me, like what I mean by that is like revisiting an old character or something. Like if I was an actor, it's like, okay, I'm Jim Carrey, I'm going to play Ace Ventura again, which I'm sure he can do. Then it would be hilarious. But I'm not sure that I want to see that movie though. If he does it, sometimes that's kind of cringy. And that was, so it felt like that with doing BTA. It was a little bit of like a throwback versus like with Death Therapy, especially the new record. It feels like this is me. This is where I'm at in 2022. I'm not the most metal dude in the world. I do like metal. So that's not to dog on the new BTA thing. It's just, I'm like, my brain, I have this like scattershot ADHD brain that like I'm tying all these things together. So in my mind, it makes perfect sense that the reason, I was so hesitant to do a new BTA record is because I was afraid it might turn into a cringy, like Dumb and Dumber 2.
Right.
Like, oh, well, okay, well, Jim Carrey's going to be this old character again. And it's like, you can't recapture the genius of the original. And I was worried that if we do a new BTA, we can't recapture it. So I guess COVID helped to just be like, well, okay, well, we got time, so maybe we should just do it.
Yeah.
And I don't know, as with everything I've done musically, it's like if the idea is there, then let's chase the idea. So the ideas kind of started flowing for the BTA thing, and here we are.
Yeah.
I'm excited about it.
Yeah. Did doing the electronic EP and having kind of people kickstart that and pre-order that help give you confidence for going in that more electronic alternative route with Death Therapy?
Honestly, most of the reactions to that electronic EP were negative. Like I got a lot of emails saying, "Hey man, I ordered the EP that you did and there's no vocals on it." Yeah, a lot of people were confused.
The strongest and bravest that dwells among us, the wisest, most clever.
Let's get to Becoming the Archetype. How did this come about to do the band again?
We just had a lot of conversations over the years, and like I said, I was probably the one holding up I was a little, I don't want to say I was afraid we couldn't do it, but I think it was just a little bit of I wanted to make sure if we did it right. I had said that many, many times. I was like, I don't want this to just be another record. I don't want it to just be, well, hey, Jason writes metalcore riffs again. And we call it BTA, which could have maybe happened multiple times during the last 10 years. This had to sound like BTA, feel like BTA. I wanted people BTA stands for Becoming the Archetype. For anyone listening who's like, I've heard this acronym a million times now. But yeah, I feel like we accomplished that. I feel like Nate Washburn, who was our producer, who I also worked with on the last Death Therapy record, Melancholy Machines, he and I had such a really good, relationship of the way we were creating music together going. It was like, okay, well, let's just take that flow, and take it into the new BTA. And I think it worked out great. Nate totally gets what we wanted it to be. It's epic. It's progressive. It's brutal at times. It's all of those things all mixed into one, which to me, I've seen a couple reviews where people have said things like, it sounds a little bit like Terminate Damnation, sounds a little bit like Dichotomy, sounds a little bit like Celestial Completion. And I'm like, then we succeeded. Yeah. That's what we were going for. So, yeah.
Was there ever any conversation about BTA happening without you? Like I am.
Not again. No, I don't think there was any plan of them doing another record without me involved. Because I just don't know that it would have been worth the trouble for them. But when they did, this is where my brain went before when you asked the question. I leaped ahead. I was going to say I was a fan of the I Am record. I thought it was cool that they kept doing stuff after I left. There was never, some people still ask me, was there animosity when I left the band? There never was any animosity. It was always just my wife and I were going to have our first child. It was like, I need to step back from touring and stuff. If the guys in BTA had been like, hey, it turns out none of us want to tour anymore, and then, hey, I probably would have been around and done another record or something like that. But we probably would have been hunting for a new guitar player if we did that, because Daniel was already, Daniel plays now in Phineas. Daniel Gailey's who I'm talking about, plays in Phineas, plays in Fit for a King, both of which are, awesome bands. Fit for a King is huge.
Yeah.
So the BTA revolving door of lead guitar players probably would have continued to spin if we had just stepped back to a studio role. So with this record, it was, the perfect way to do it, where we could all take our time. We spent almost like a year and a half, 2 years or something on this record. Brought in a bunch of people, guest guitar players who had been lead guitar players. Daniel did a guest solo. Alex, who was the second lead guitar player, did a guest solo. Tried to get John, who was the original lead guitar player, but he just wasn't available or interested particularly. He did call me the other day and told me he listened to the whole record and loved it. Told me his face got melted off. So that was really cool. No animosity between he and I or anything like that. So yeah.
That's awesome. What was the writing process like? I know like Georgia was not quite as locked down as some other places, but like what was the writing process for you guys?
So we got together at the beginning of 2020, right before COVID kind of lockdowns happened, and we started writing together. We wanted to be in a room writing the way we did back in the old days, like when we were 18 years old and writing Terminate Damnation, because we thought that's going to be the only way to capture the mojo or whatever you want to call it. We shouldn't write this all through email. That would be the wrong vibe. So we got together in a room. We rented a studio place just to get together in a room, put some microphones on, started writing some ideas with Nate and with Godkin Seth. Nate plays guitar, so he sort of filled in as like the lead guitar player for those things, and bass. And anyway, then COVID happened.
Yeah.
But Seth lives in Wisconsin now, and he flew down a few times and would just basically spend time just in person working on riffs. I did a lot of the vocal stuff on my own, and when the riffs were there, I would just kind of I got to sort of have a little time to tinker with vocal ideas, which I think is part of why I'm so happy with how the vocals came out this time. There definitely were records that BTA did in the past where I felt like I was rushed, and I look back and I'm like, I wish I could go back and redo all those vocals or something, which that's not going to happen. But yeah, this record, I sort of got to explore every idea that was there. And then Duck's the drummer, original drummer, Brent Duckett. He and I got together, and we have a good history of working together in the rhythm section with the bass and the drums. And he would throw ideas out, and I'd be like, well, hey, what if we try this totally opposite thing? And then, somewhere in the middle, we ended up with these, I think, some cool, unique drum stuff on the record. So it's not all brutal. It's not all blast beats. It's not all breakdowns or anything. It's just a mixture.
Yeah. So. Yeah. I'm not a true cult when it comes to BTA. I think it was Celestial compilations that I first really tapped in and became a fan. And then I liked I Am. And the first two records, I struggle with them a little bit. But this record, I think, is amazing. So Dichotomy
is still my favorite record. The one we did with Devin Townsend, because I'm biased because the recording process with Devin Townsend was so cool. Right. He's such a musical hero of mine, and I think the production on that record is unbelievable. This new record, we tried to sort of drive at that same vibe, and I think this record's going to, rival being my favorite BTA record. So
yeah, that's cool. Talk to me about the lyrical theme, the concept of this record. What inspired it?
Yeah, so this is the first BTA record that is a true concept album, all the way through from first track to the last track. It tells one narrative story continuously, which made some people upset when we were releasing singles, because they were like, I don't understand what's happening in the story. I don't know who these people are. But but yeah, I wanted to go. I was really big at the time. This was beginning of 2022, or excuse me, beginning of 2020. I was really big into, like, I had reread the Dune, like the book Dune, in preparation of the movie coming out. So there's some themes of that leaked in there. I've always been a huge fan of C.S. Lewis's space trilogy, which I still find a lot of people don't know exists. They know him only from Chronicles of Narnia or his theological stuff, but his space trilogy is unbelievable, in my opinion. And I've always been a big fan of Coheed and Cambria. Love the fact that they did those records with, comic books along with them and stuff.
Yeah.
So I sort of wrote this record concept wise with a graphic novel sort of vibe in mind. And maybe one day that'll happen. I don't know. It costs a lot of money to make a graphic novel. But yeah, that's what I wrote it with that in mind. And so it tells a science fiction narrative that spans sort of thousands of years in an epic thing that's going on, with people traveling between dimensions and monsters and all sorts of stuff. So
yeah, that's cool. I just finished reading To Sleep in a Sea of Stars, and I'm just about to finish Hail Mary. And so this record, combined with like reading 2 books about aliens and space travel, it was like the perfect complement.
Dude, that's awesome.
Was it difficult for you to write in this way as like a concept and try to connect the lines and be inspired by something that is just like completely fictional?
No. I actually think the science fiction is a great vehicle for exploring human condition alongside, spiritual and, deeper themes, because it's, science fiction puts it just like slightly outside of the grasp of what's happening right now. So it makes it a little bit fantastical, if you want to say it that way, but at the same time, it's very within reach. And so I think it's all very relatable. I think that's why the original Star Wars movies were so successful. And maybe not as much after things get so expanded upon, who knows, but like, I think the first ones were like, it was just slightly science fiction enough, but it still felt like, I don't know, like a Western, or it just felt like something that was familiar to people. And so that's what I like about science fiction as a theme. I mean, I could try to write like more high fantasy stuff, but it's just not, and I like that stuff. It just doesn't relate to me as much. One of my favorite fantasy series was Stephen King's Dark Tower series. And that, of course, is set in a Western, So yeah, totally.
That's cool. What led you guys releasing this with Solid State? Just kind of a natural relationship because you worked with them forever?
Yeah, I mean, I have not ever put out a record on another label. I did put out that you mentioned, that little electronic EP during COVID by myself. But that was just a one-time thing. And then I was right back with the record label. And then the reality is I don't know if they would have wanted to release that anyway. It's like, some people may be listening to this and be like, well, I don't know what this EP is, but it was like electronic video game music kind of stuff that I made, which I'm super proud of, because that's always been a huge influence on me as a musician. I've made no bones about that. BTA always had some like video game sort of tie-in or something in some songs. And on the Death Therapy records, every record has like one instrumental that has some sort. The new record doesn't, but the first 2 records have there's one song that's like a Castlevania throwback, and one song that's like a Mega Man tribute. And so yeah, I did an EP during COVID that was I called it Dance Therapy instead of Death Therapy, because it's like, I don't know, electronic techno video game music. So if you're into that,
it's fun.
Please, I enjoyed it.
I enjoyed it.
I've always thought it'd be cool to tour and play that kind of stuff, like show up at like Comic-Con or something and play those songs. Yeah, a lot of people didn't seem to know why I would waste my time on that. They're like, I don't follow you because of this. I follow you because you're a vocalist. Please do vocals. So whatever.
Yeah. Do you want to do more of that experimental stuff? Because like you can just like throw something up on Bandcamp if you want, just like take your time and build like singles or whatever. Is that something you want to explore more of, or you just like, I tried it and it wasn't successful, so why bother?
Yeah, no, I mean, as with everything I've done in my musical career, it's always been met with like the overwhelming response from people who check it out is positive. But the number of people who check it out is really small. So it's always like, man, okay, did that really work? Or was it just a cool little niche thing for a few people, you know?
Yeah.
And so what I've had to do is, and this is fine, I have no problems with this, is just always just sort of chase my own creative rabbit trails wherever they want to go. And I would definitely, I called that EP part 1 with the intentions of doing a part 2. And then last year I did a Christmas project called Wisdom and Wages, where I did some electronic, but they're more like, they have guitar and like drums and other stuff, like, you know, sort of like if Mannheim Steamroller and Trans-Siberian Orchestra had a baby, kind of Christmas instrumentals. And like I called that part 1, hoping that eventually I get to do a part 2. But yeah, who knows? You know, I think part of being part of how, you know, how my attention span works is, you know, sometimes I get started a lot of projects and I don't ever get to finish them. But
Yeah.
I hope so. I hope one day.
What's in the future for you musically, whether it's BTA or Death Therapy or something different? Like, you got something else in the works? What's the rest of this year and beyond look like?
I mean, it'd be cool to play some shows with the BTA guys. I don't know if that's going to happen, but we'll see. New Death Therapy record, hopefully at some point, will happen. There's no songs written for that currently, but I would love to do it. I just started a new job as a teacher. Again, some people know that I have a background in teaching. I actually am on my planning period right now. So if someone comes and knocks on the door, that I may have to deal with a student or something. But yeah, so you know, I don't know. We'll see. We'll see what comes. I'm actually coming up here in like a week. I'm going to be playing music festival, Uprise Festival in Pennsylvania, in Shippensburg, PA. Which is a really cool festival that we get to play. Demon Hunters headlining our stage that day and at the festival. So yeah, I'm going to try to stay active and keep doing stuff, but yeah, hopefully it won't be 10 more years until we do another BTA record.
Nice. That's awesome.
Hopefully. Yeah.
That's awesome. What's keeping you sane these days? What are you into? Books, music, TV? What?
Man, like I said, I just started teaching jobs, so I am like so swamped in curriculums and stuff, which is kind of cool. I'm teaching Bible, and I'm also teaching AP psychology. Some people might think that those can't go together, but to me, it's interesting. I've always been more of an intellectual in my approach to faith, and I don't mean intellectual in like a snotty way. I just mean like I'm very cerebral with the way I process, analytical. That's the word I was looking for.
Okay.
Process things. So yeah, it's been interesting. Musically, man, at this point in my life, if it doesn't immediately strike me, it's so hard to get past my firewall. I really liked the new record from the band Ghost. I thought it was really, really cool. 99% of the people around me think that I'm going to hell for listening to that. And I get that. They're definitely doing the satanic like gimmick thing, but I mean, so has everybody. Like,
right.
Yeah, whatever. I tend to view metal music more as like a role playing like game. Anyway, it's like it's nobody's really, you know what I mean. James Hetfield, like you've seen the memes online, James Hetfield like shopping with his kids or something. He's got like flip flops and he's like holding bag. Yeah, I mean he's like James Hetfield's not like a metal lord of doom, right? Like, you know. Now I mean, now to be fair, at one point like he and the dudes probably were like living that like, you know, drugs and rock and roll kind of lifestyle, but I've never been that guy. So the new Ghost record, super rad. I liked it a lot. I'm really into some like singer-songwriter, folky kind of stuff. Andrew Peterson's like a huge hero of mine musically. He's also written a series called the Wing Feather Saga, which I got into, books. Thought those were really rad. There's 4 of those, which they're being made into an animated series right now. So yeah. I'm pretty sure that the vinyl records sold out of the new BTA record, but I think there's still CDs, and obviously it's out on all the streaming platforms. That would be a cool place for people to check it out. Like, I won't go on a huge long tangent, but like, I'm 38 years old, and a lot of the fans of BTA tend to be around my age, because we were all in the scene at the same time.
Yep.
And it turns out there's a lot of grumpy 38-year-olds who are like, Spotify's destroying the music world. I'm not going to go listen to streaming music. I only buy CDs. And then those people, it'd be cool if they went and bought the CDs, but they tend to just gripe more. So then they end up not buying the CD and not streaming it. And then it's literally just like, oh, cool. Well, that didn't help at all. So the actual best thing you could do for a band would be to do both, buy the physical and then go stream it, because streaming is the place that bands exist in 2022. So I'm not grumpy about that at all. It's actually a cool way that we get to reach new people. So in 2010 or 2011, when I left BTA, we had never picked singles for a record. Like, we didn't do that. We released my favorite record, Dichotomy. There wasn't even a music video for that album. It was like, who cares about that? Like, we were an underground metal band. That's what underground metal bands are. And nowadays it's like, oh, well, hey, you got to pick singles, and these songs might get on playlists, and it's like, oh, cool. Like, you know what I mean? So
right. You want to get on like the new core playlist on Spotify, and like, it's like the second wave of music videos. It's like YouTube, right? Like, it's like the new radio. And my point is, we never would have had access to radio. Like, who was, there was like one, and I still think there's maybe like one satellite radio station, and podcasting was like brand new. It wasn't even really a thing that I knew about. Yeah. Oh, super cool. Thank you for having me to tie that all in there. Yeah. Nice. Yeah. And I'm in the five-time club, right? 5-timer club. Yep. You alone. Club. You're the first one.
Awesome.
Rise, renew, extract the water from the body, drink, consume, absorb the lives within the blood, move, regain, new life to earn and make the feel, go and reclaim the planet, go and reclaim the planet.
Thanks for listening to As the Story Grows. Our intro music was written and composed by Jeremy Hunt. The As the Story Grows theme is by Bob Nana. If you like what you hear, subscribe wherever you get your podcasts and give us a rating and review. If you'd like to support the show financially, you can join us at patreon.com/asthestorygrows. Be a part of our community and join the ongoing conversation over on Discord. If you enjoy this episode, share it on social media with your friends. Much appreciated, and thanks for listening.
I never felt so young and alive as when I'm diving into a tune. And now I'm learning as I listen along, and the wheels are turning, and I started a song.